Ain't no party like a Tech Night party. What's up, guys? Sorry this is a little late, but let's head on right onto this. Let's hop onto IMDb. I'll talk about some things. So, hopping over here to IMDb, I did decide to make an account, which I said in my other video, and for this one, I think a 7 is properly rated. Um, Not a whole lot happened here, and this is mostly just there's a lot of comedy in it. Well, not exactly comedy. I guess is that's kind of how you define comedy. What I'll say at least is I enjoyed this episode a lot. I thought it was pretty funny, but overall I thought it was an all right episode. So I think it'll be kind of giving it a 7 because, as you know, I right before I recorded this decided to go through and just quickly rate all of them. Wabberjack I think was a lot better, or not a lot better, but a little bit better. So I give that an 8, and then Wisdom Age is easy 9. Could see the argument for a 10, but I think that's probably just a safe, easy 9. And then the first 3 episodes, I kind of all just gave a 6 out of 10 because, like I said in my first boys video when I mentioned the season's premiere, I just didn't like the episodes. A lot of them were kind of just boring, and I'm kind of just re-preaching stuff that I already said about subplots being reused and rehashed and stuff not really mattering to the main plot and how they could have better stretched it out over the season. But either way, yeah. So first 3 I gave 6 out of 10, easy 9 for episode 4. Kind of went for an 8. Kind of agree with the average there for episode 5, and then episode 7. I guess I'm going a little below the average because I don't know if it's weird. I could put it on par with War of the Yabberjock or Yabberwock, but my initial reaction is probably 7. Then, of course, if I feel a little different, I can always come back, re-rate it, and then talk about that potentially later. But either way, so right now this is sitting at a 7.7 at the average. I'm going slightly below the average, or yes, thankfully a lot, considering that 7.7 is closer to an 8 than it is a 7. And then obviously, other really interesting fact is that episodes 1 and 2 continue to go down in rating. I think last time we saw their rating was like 7.6, 7.2 last time we checked on here. But either way, yeah. Um, that's just kind of my opinion on it. But now let's head on into talking about the actual episode itself. Not a whole lot of crazy stuff happens. There's some like minor inconsistencies that kind of annoy me, but it's just more of like, I guess the bigger one. Well, I'll get into the bigger one a little bit later, but um, first it kind of starts off. A-Train is kind of panicked because obviously at the end of last episode, Homelander gathered pretty much all the soups together, all the important people, and was like, "Oh, you need to pledge your loyalty to me by killing the presumed mole, fake Tucker Carlson," and they all beat him to death. And A-Train's now kind of freaking out. Kind of calms him down, and then when he tells the team, they all kind of freak out, right, as well. And then we see Starlight be like, "Okay, yeah, where's Billy? We need Billy," which is pretty important because, like I said last video, um, Starlight starting to agree with Billy and starting to kind of encourage Billy is something that we would have never seen from her previously. And I think because she's fucked up and because they're in a situation where it doesn't really look like they can resolve it in the way that she would like to, she's now kind of resorting to Billy. But obviously Billy isn't here because we also see that Billy is with Jesse in the warehouse that they're in where they brought Zamir. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's Zamir. They brought Zamir, and they're trying to make him not only remake the virus, but also make it more deadly. That way it can kill Homelander. And there's some scenes of them arguing about stuff like that. But either way, so it goes back to Tech Night thing. MM comes up with a plan to infiltrate Tech Knight's party, and he does that by giving drugs to one of the informants, who is a ripoff Spider-Man, who sure enough got a was sent a like sidekick request or something like that, or sidekick application thing. So Huey, they end up having Huey get into the suit, and apparently Tech Knight can't tell it's not him because of how bad the suit smells. Which, okay, whatever. That's like, because Tech Knight's supposed to have like super senses, like heightened like smell, sight, all this other stuff, which also makes um cleaning certain items pretty hard for the butler to do, because like obviously later on in the scene, there's a thing where like, he's complaining like, oh, you didn't fully clean this or whatever. So he has, and that was obviously also established in Gen V, but apparently the suit is just so well, or so terribly upkept, that it just smells like shit. And, or I guess it just smells like the guy who wears it, who kind of smells like shit. So that's how he can't tell it's Huey until later on, when he realizes that he's shaking, and that all the stuff they're doing to Huey, or doing to the fake Spider-Man, is actually of imposter, which obviously he recognizes that it's Huey. So they go in, they do that. That's their plan. They it brings them down to the dungeon. They show Ashley a little bit earlier, and she mentions how she knows Tech Knight personally. Now she was invited. How Sage doesn't know everything. Then that's obviously when it's obviously once they showed the dungeon, I kind of knew like, oh yeah, Ashley's gonna show up at some point, because if they're going out of their way to show Ashley, go arriving to the party and then show us next dungeon, they're gonna show fucking Ashley, right? So they're gonna do that. Ashley ends up showing up. They do that whole thing, and once they lose contact, the boys decide to go and try and infiltrate the party, which Starlight runs into Firecracker, and she apologizes, and then she kind of like apologizes to bring her guard down, and then knocks her out. And then we get this weird scene, which is my second inconsistency that I mean, it always bothers me in general with any film or TV show, just in general. But once they get to the library, Sage is obviously there. They try to threaten Sage not to move, but then Sage starts talking about MM's daughter. Apologies about that. Starts talking about MM's daughter, and he starts freaking out. And then eventually, as she dies for the panic button, he shoots her in the head, and then he gets a panic attack. And eventually, Kimiko convinces A Train to run MM to the hospital and back. So A Train's kind of adamant not to do it at first, but then after he does it, he feels really good because a kid sees him, and a kid starts smiling, and he looks really happy, and A Train actually kind of feels like a hero for once. But um, during that whole sequence, again, the main inconsistency, fuck, I cannot speak, I had about that is just the whole silencer thing, because I don't know how many of you actually own firearms in real life. I do. In fact, you could probably see a few of them. Actually, no, it's in that corner right there. Um, not yet. It's in that corner over there. Um, Throwing a little piece of plastic at the end of a machine that sends a little piece of metal flying at over like 1,000 feet per second or whatever the fuck, depending on like the caliber and shit like that. Like a little piece of plastic is not going to immediately like completely eliminate all sound. Like the Homelander would have fucking heard that gun going off. So that's just stupid Hollywood magic when it comes to guns. So Homelander should have heard that. No one, not only Homelander, everyone should have fucking heard that. Like a silence, like unless he was packing like a subsonic 22 with a silencer, then maybe most people would not have heard it. But Homelander most definitely would have heard that. So I don't know how he shoots that gun off in there and no one hears that, but whatever. And then also it's revealed that that did not kill Sister Sage, and it kind of alluded to the Deadpool theory I had in my premiere video, where I said maybe she gets shot, she gets amnesia, which kind of happens, but she also still kind of is self-aware of what's going on, but she's just stupid and doesn't really remember anything. So she remembers like who she is, where they are, who other people are, but she obviously doesn't really remember the plan, and she's just so dumbified that she can't really go through with Homelander's plan, which is to convince all the political people there to back and join his coup to kill Rob Singer once they get him elected. And because of that, Homelander has to try and do it by himself. And like always, it backfires because he doesn't know any real factual or technical aspects to his plan, rather than he's a psychopath who can control whoever the hell he wants, and he wants to make everyone follow him and worship him as a god. So that starts to fall apart. And then, of course, Newman kind of has to keep playing into the that like support, like it's hinted that she's kind of faking at it, but she obviously goes in to try and save Homelander because she's kind of mostly doing it out of self preservation, and she kind of makes up and saves Homelander's ass, while Sage is just kind of just stupefied in the corner. And the boys obviously all hear this through the bug that Huey planted earlier, and so now they're also like, oh, Newman's a part of this for sure, which obviously, like I said, it's kind of hinted that she is, kind of not, but that's whatever. And then, so after that, there was also the later saga of the Tech Knight dungeon thing. So Ashley, remember, she leaves right before they all get there, and right as Tech Knight was going to start like really starting to torture Huey, they get there, they incapacitate him, they try figuring out how to torture Damascus, and that's when the Gimp comes out of the corner, or he breaks out of his chains in the corner, unlocks the bank account. They start sending money to a bunch of left wing charities, which they hinted at the fact that he was racist because he mentioned his family having generational wealth from slave owners, and made a joke about A Train and his dad catching him and all this other stuff, which really, oh my, it's so out of pocket. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff about them donating stuff, and him be like, no, fuck you, not those people. So again, just very like shit posty things. Like, I don't get me wrong, I find shit posts pretty funny, but it's not like it's not like peak comedy. Like, I got to admit that, even though I was laughing and I enjoyed it a lot, it's nothing like super well. It's not like, I guess not. Yeah, I guess not really super like well thought out. It's just kind of like, oh, shit post humor off of like Twitter. Just throw it in there. You know, it'll get you a few laughs, but it's nothing like fantastic by any means. Which is kind of just what most of this episode is. Don't get me wrong, I still love it, but it's not like amazing in terms of like a quality of an episode. So all that happens, and then let's see. I'm trying to remember if I forget anything from the Tech Night party. I think that's it for the Tech Night party, and then they leave. And pretty much at the end of the episode is when Sage, or not Sage, is when fucking what you call it, Firecracker. I don't know why I was blanking on that, but it's when Firecracker reveals to Homelander that Starlight was there, and that the mole is probably not dead. And um, there's another out of pocket scene where she expresses her loyalty by essentially just breastfeeding him, and Homelander completely buys into it, which I think is going to play into Firecracker trying to manipulate Homelander to turn on Sage, because obviously it's shown that Firecracker does not like Sage, because Sage set up Firecracker to get her ass beat. So I think they could be trying to play into that, especially with her being dumbified and then almost fucking up Homelander's plan, and Homelander being very petty, and him thinking that he might not even need Sister Sage anymore. So there's a chance that he could just kill her off, potentially in the next like episode, or the next, maybe in the finale or something like that. And that Firecracker could use that to try and turn Homelander. Then, of course, at the end, we get the final confirmation that Jesse is actually fake, which, I mean, has been a theory that's been going on for a while, but a lot of people, but I mean, it had the most merit to it, just because we hadn't seen him a lot with other people, or other people directly interact with him. But then again, people were also saying shit about that with like Becca, and or not with Becca. It was Huey's mom, but obviously Huey never took enough temp V to really justify that. And also in that whole sequence, we figure out that if Zamir makes Compound V, or not Compound V, if he makes the soup virus strong enough to be airborne and kill anyone with Compound V in it, it would also kill Ryan as well, and obviously his own daughter. But Besides for that, like I said, I enjoyed the episode. It was definitely a pretty decent episode, but in terms of comedy, most of it was just kind of shit posting, out of pocket moments, and just kind of stuff you would just find normally on Twitter. So I enjoyed it, but it's not the most technically great episode, and not a whole lot happened because there's like one little bit also with Frenchie and Kimiko where Kimiko tries to visit Frenchie again, but Frenchie refuses to let anyone see him. So I don't know what they're trying to do with that, but besides for that, um, that's kind of it for I guess technically last week's episode. But if you guys did enjoy, please let me know down below. Leave a like, comment, all that stuff. If you want to see more stuff, just hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, join the posse, and to everyone a part of the posse. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out.